Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Gregory Lewis, and this February 2023 Borough Board meeting is virtual to ensure compliance with the ongoing COVID-19 state of emergency, local state of emergency. This meeting is being conducted virtually under Section 103-A of the Public Officers Law, especially as there is a public hearing matter. On behalf of Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, I'm chairing this meeting according to his September 21st, 2022 order. Seeing that we have about half the board on, I will invite my colleague Carol Ann Church to call the roll, please.
Good evening, everyone. We received an excuse from Community Board 1, so I will start with Community Board 2. Community Board 3.
President Anthony Busera.
Thank you. Community Board 4. Community Board 5. Community Board 6.
Good evening, Eric McClure, Chairperson.
Community Board 7.
Good evening, Julio Peña, present.
Community Board 8.
Good evening, Irsa Weatherspoon, present.
Community Board 9. Community Board 10.
Good evening, J. Marie Kapitanakis, Chair, present.
Community Board 11.
Good evening, Man Wai Lau, Secretary, CB11.
Community Board 12. Community Board 13.
Jeffrey Sandler, First Vice Chair, CB13, and also my colleague, Zanira Ahmed, she's Second Vice Chair, CB13. Thank you.
Thank you. CB 14.
Greetings, Joanne Brown, Chair, CB 14.
CB 15. I see Teresa. CB 16. CB 16.
Present. Sorry, Janice Morgan, Chair.
CB 17. CB 18. There are 10 CBs present. Council member, our representatives. CD 33. CD 34.
Slow.
34. CD 35.
Hi, Casey Addison here on behalf of Councilmember Crystal Hudson.
Thank you. Council District 36. Council District 37.
Good evening, Muhammad Khan on behalf of Councilmember Sandy Nurse.
Council District 38. Council District 38. Council District 39.
Hi, Busera here on behalf of Councilmember Shahana Hani.
Thank you. Council District 40. Council District 41.
Hello, Councilmember Darlene Mealy.
Hello, Council Member.
How are you, everyone?
Welcome. Council District 42. Council District 43.
Michael Sheldon here for Councilmember Justin Brannon.
Council District 44. Council District 45. Council District 46.
Hi, good evening. Sai Joseph here for Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse, 46th District.
Council District 47.
Williams present for Councilmember Kagan, District 47.
Council District 48.
Good evening, everybody. Troy Olson, representing Councilwoman Ina Vernikoff, District 48.
And the Borough President's Office is represented by Council Greg Lewis, right? And we have 21 members, including the Borough President, present.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Church. Now, an agenda for this evening's meeting was circulated to all the Borough Board members by email. Did anyone not receive a copy of that agenda? Hearing that no one failed to receive a copy of the agenda, wish to know that whether there is any objection to adopting the agenda as circulated by email as the agenda for this evening's meeting. Hearing no objections, the agenda circulated by email is adopted as the agenda for this evening's meeting. Also circulated by email was minutes for the January 2023 Borough Board meeting. Did anyone not receive a copy of the proposed minutes for the January 2023 minutes of the Borough Board?
Come on, CB4C. I've been trying to get in. I just got in.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Camacho. You are recognized. You will note you as present.
Thank you.
Once again, anyone not receive rather the minutes of the January 2023 Borough Board meeting, the proposed minutes, the January 2023 Borough Board. Hearing no one stating that they did not receive a copy, now ask Borough Board members whether anyone has an objection to approving the proposed minutes for the January 2023 Borough Board meeting as the official minutes of the January 2020.
I do have an objection. Yrsa Weatherspoon, CB8.
Please, Ms. Weatherspoon.
Good evening. I just wanted to note that under CB8, I'm sorry, CB concerns, you don't have CB8's concerns regarding bike share. So I wanted to make sure that that was included.
Council, CB8 has made a motion to amend the proposed minutes to mention that Community Board 8 also raised an objection about bike share. Are there any objections to amending the proposed minutes of the January 2023 Borough Board minutes to include that amendment? Any objections to that change?
Baba Camacho, no.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson Camacho. Hearing no other objections, the proposed January 2023 Borough Board.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair Lewis. I have two corrections to the January meeting.
I'll get to that in a minute, Chairperson Brown. I'm just going to now correct that the proposed January 2023 minutes are should be amended to reflect that CB8 raised an objection to the bike share. Now, are there any further objections?
I'm sorry to cut across you. I just really want to be clear. not objection, but also raising concerns about the
Concern, sorry.
placement. Yeah.
Raise concerns about the placement of the bike share.
Yes,
Sorry.
that's okay.
All right, we'll make note that proposed change. Now, with
Thank
that
you.
proposed change having been made, of course, want to recognize Chairperson Brown. I believe you have two other potential corrections or amendments to the proposed minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I apologize for interrupting earlier. Under the discussion notes for presentation 1 from the Prospect Park Alliance, there is a note about the project timeframe question that actually came from the chairperson of CB10, not CB14. And then under Borough Board updates, in regards to an announcement from CB14, there's a small typo where it says DET and the acronym should actually be DOT. Thank you.
Any objections to amending the proposed minutes for January 2023 to reflect the two changes noted by Chairperson Brown? The first, that it was the chairperson of Community Board 10 who made comments under the public hearing item, and to correct the typo to DOT under Borough Board updates. Any objections to those two changes?
None. Robert Camacho.
Thank you, Chairperson Camacho. Hearing no objections, those two changes to the proposed minutes are made. Now, does any Borough Board member have an objection to adopting the approving the proposed January 2023 minutes reflecting the amendments made tonight, CB8's amendment, as well as CB14's two amendments? Any objections to adopting the amended proposed January 2023 Borough Board minutes? Hearing no objections, the amended proposed January 2023 minutes are adopted as the official January 2023 Borough Board minutes, and rendered copies will be circulated to the members. This brings us to now the third item on the agenda as adopted this evening, a public hearing on an application to remove from Prospect Park Alliance to restore and reconstruct approximately 10 acres in the northeast corner of Prospect Park, also known as the Vale of Kashmir. The proposed work would include the creation of a meadow with a planted arbor, natural exploration area, and comfort station with a green roof. It will also include fully accessible paths, benches, drinking fountains, waste receptacles, protective fencing, and accessible educational signage. The second part of the project is the restoration of the children's pool in the Lower Vale, a matter coming under the Borough Board under the provision in Section 85 relating to matters relating or covering more than one district. For a presentation on this public hearing item, I once again welcome, for the second month in a row, I believe, Svetlana Ragulina of the Prospect Park Alliance. Ms. Ragulina, are you present?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Very thrilled to present to you tonight our plans for the restoration of the Vale area. And with me tonight, I also have Deborah Kirshner, our Vice President of External Communications and Relations, and also David Yum, who's our new Senior Architect. And I think Deborah would just like to start out with a few words, so I'll hand her the mic really quickly.
Thanks, Svetlana. Did you want to show any slides, or I'll just talk it through? Whatever. Oh, okay. Thanks, everyone. I am joining Svetlana for this presentation just because this was a special project for the Alliance. It's one where we invested a lot of resources and time into doing extensive community outreach to the public. Not that we don't do community outreach in terms of our normal course of business, but this project kind of had certain landscapes in it that Svetlana is going to share with you that had changed several times over its history. So it wasn't as beholden to landmarks regulations as the rest of the park is. And it gave us a chance to really dream large and really think about what types of amenities we could bring to this area of the park that would be beneficial to the community, and wanting the community to be part of that process. Just really quickly, the area of the park we're talking about, it's an area of the park, it's roughly 27 acres that the specific restoration work is going to be happening in 10 acres in the heart of the landscape. We consider this part of the park gateway to and from the neighborhoods of Crown Heights, Prospect Heights, Bed-Stuy, and beyond. It's also a woodland area that is bordered by some of our most popular attractions, including the Long Meadow and the Children's Corner and Grand Army Plaza. This area of the park in general has been the site of a number of improvements. It hasn't really seen any restoration in over 50 years, so we've been lucky enough to receive funding for many improvements over the course of the past decade. This includes restoring the Flatbush Avenue perimeter, adding new entrances to the park along Flatbush Avenue, the restoration of Endale Arch, one of the iconic arches that leads into the park. Through a Hurricane Sandy grant from the state, we were able to restore a lot of woodlands in the area, and we're currently restoring the Grand Army Plaza, the arch and the berms. The arch is going to go into construction this spring. This just gives a really detailed view into the types of outreach and the work that went into kind of planning for this project. And I think the most important thing to see is that in around 2017-18, we did extensive community engagement. We engaged over 2,000 residents to help us create a vision for the Vale. And that led to the ideas for the amenities you're about to see, which resulted in us getting funding from the mayor. This slide just shows where we did the outreach. It was very grassroots outreach. We did a lot of outreach in neighborhoods to the east of the park, given the location of the areas to be restored. We worked with an outside consultant, a nonprofit called Hester Street, that helped us do design workshops and visioning sessions and really engaging the public around the ideas for what could happen in this landscape. And the main feedback we did receive is that people loved the woodland nature of the space. They wanted to keep it as a place that's restorative and nature-centered, a place to bring together different generations of community members through arts and culture or nature and appreciation. That people also really wanted amenities added to the space to make the area, not just the area of the restoration itself, but the neighboring areas as well, a bit more functional and accessible and welcoming. Once we received funding from the mayor, we did a second round of outreach. We went back to the community to say, we have the funding now, we're about to start design. This is what we heard. Is this vision ring true? And this slide just quickly shows the various areas where we did outreach and different types of outreach in 2022. And it's a little hard to read, but a survey that we conducted along with it just kind of reinforced people's interest in keeping the woodland character of the space and adding amenities. And then lastly, and then I'll let Svetlana take over, this map shows the vision we have for the Vale, which Svetlana is going to get more into detail about, and the feedback we received that helped to shape our design. We had proposed adding restrooms to the area. We had feedback to make that building footprint as small as possible. And this is a really popular bird watching area, so making it bird friendly and environmentally friendly. Again, because it is home to wildlife as birds, there was the request that we incorporate fencing to really help protect sensitive woodland areas. And then a third part, which is not part of Svetlana's presentation, but which is a wonderful thing that came out of the process, is that in addition to the proper restoration itself, the Alliance is going to be doing additional 3 acres of woodland restoration work just south of the project site simultaneously with the restoration. So we're going to be even strengthening more this area's focus as a wildlife habitat. I think Svetlana is the next slide you. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself. Svet, are you still muted? Or are you? I think Svetlana's having trouble unmuting. I'm not sure why. Oops. I don't know if anyone has suggestions with WebEx, if she should log off and log back in. It seems like she's not able to unmute herself.
Is she logging in from a phone or from a desktop?
It looked like she was on a desktop, so I'm not sure. Now her video is off. I don't know. Maybe she's trying to play with her her settings.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Okay,
Thank
I'm
you,
unmuted.
whoever did that. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Not familiar with this platform. Okay, so thank you, Deborah. I will start my presentation with the design plans for the Upper Vale first. So as Deborah mentioned, the current restoration is about 10 acres in the heart of the Vale, and the Upper Vale is about 4 of those acres. The Upper Vale has had several design changes over its history, which makes it beholden to landmark regulation. Does not make it beholden to landmark regulation as other areas within the park. It was originally designed by Olmsted and Vaux as a children's playground. It also had the park's first carousel. And then at the turn of the century, it became a formal rose garden. And then in the late 1950s, after decades of decline, because roses are really difficult to grow, the city removed the flower beds and installed a decorative concrete fountains. There were 3 of them. And those fountains supposedly only worked for a few days and have not been functional since the 60s. So today, you see the photo all the way to the right is what it looks like. The area is maintained by the Alliance and also New York City Parks staff and a dedicated group of volunteers. But it's in really great need of restoration and repair. So the following is the site plan, is our proposal for the Upper Vale. The programmatic elements are a pollinator meadow and a planted arbor, number 1, a nature exploration area as seen near number 2, a lawn and a seating area with a pavilion as seen in number 3 and 4. One of the key requests of the community was to make the area safer and more accessible for people of all abilities. So the following plan shows the accessibility improvements, and they include reconstructed pathways in a variety of materials, which will be fully accessible. Currently, the site is not accessible. We will be including a leading rail with Braille interpretive information at the pollinator garden, and also accessible entrances at key locations on the site with accessible seating in the form of companion seating throughout the site. So now just to take you step by step through the site, this is a site plan for the pollinator meadow and the arbor. You would approach this just from the new Flatbush Avenue entrance that we installed about 3 years ago. Here we would be removing the steps and reconstructing the pathway. That would lead you to a meadow, which would border a recently restored woodland landscape. There will be a very low retaining wall because we will need to retain some soil, and a black mesh fence would protect the woodland and the meadow on either side. The pathway winds through an arbor, which will be planted with wisteria or perhaps a native planting that will provide shade and beauty to the area, and it will feature a viewing area in order to observe the pollinator meadow and garden. That same leading rail is the one that will have Braille etched on the underside, and it will enable visually impaired visitors to also experience the space. So if you come here, you'll be able to read about the meadow's native pollinator plants, as well as the insects or the mammals and hummingbirds or dragonflies that come here. Multiple benches, what we call Central Park settees, will be installed along the back of the arbor and the main path throughout the site. This is one rendering of the pollinator garden from the Flatbush Avenue entrance. On the right is the meadow. You can kind of see the mesh fencing that will be screened by the planting, and in the distance you see the arbor. This is a view of a planted arbor. As you see, it has granite paving with steel supports and a wooden frame on top. The planting that you're seeing here is wisteria, but we haven't settled on the plant material just quite yet. We're still investigating. On their right, you see that the meadow will be retained by a granite wall with a leaning rail with interpretive panels on it, and Central Park Cities will be located to the left of the site. So one of the key concerns that we heard from the birding community, which is very active in this area, was they were concerned that we needed to protect the sensitive woodland areas that were already here, and also the meadow that we're planning for. This plan here shows you in yellow the fencing that we're proposing to install throughout the site, and it's the same black mesh fencing that we use all throughout our woodlands. It's 4-foot tall black fence, and we're hoping to set it back into the woodland so it won't be apparent. It'll be screened behind shrubs. Now moving towards the central area of the site, the natural exploration area. This will be a woodland play area. It will be defined by high canopy trees and understory shrubs. There will also be a new trail that goes off of here, off of the main asphalt pathway. The species of the tall canopy trees and the shrubs that will be selected for the site are based on an existing palette of native woodland trees and shrubs that are already found in the park. They are known to provide habitat and food for migratory birds and also pollinators. The shrubs will be thickly planted to serve as a natural border for this exploration area. It will be separating the wooded edges from the primary play spaces. This is in addition to the low hidden fencing that I just talked about. So in terms of the elements of this natural exploration play area, it will include a variety of tree stumps from fallen trees in the park. The stumps will be configured for walking or jumping, balancing, or sitting or playing. They will be also crafted into wood sculptures, and they will be naturally decaying logs. Boulders will also be installed for various scrambles and seating areas. And we also plan to install a hand pump that will release water into a dry creek bed. And we're also proposing a sandy area that will be defined by natural logs. Other stump activities and workstations are also located in this area, and they will be placed near the edge of the space in order to allow greater accessibility for these activities for children of all abilities. There's one rendering that's showing you the successful play area. This is the trail that I mentioned that just is going to wind off of the central asphalt pathway. Currently, we're proposing wooden pavers for that trail, and boulders will be placed throughout for seating and exploring. And in the foreground, you're seeing the hand pump and the dry creek bed. So now we move to the lawn and the seating area at the north end of the site, which is next to the pavilion. This plan outlines the features of this landscape, which will have an open lawn. It will be bordered by a granite curb that transitions into a seat wall. Granite pavers outline the edge between the pavilion and the open space. Historic city benches, once again, will be placed along the pathway, in addition to a high-low drinking fountain with bottle fillers. Next to the pavilion, we're proposing a gray water garden because this building will have composting toilets, and we're hoping that the sinks will be managed by the gray water garden, the sink water. For shading, we're proposing a mix of black gum, oak, tulip trees, beech, holly trees, and others. in order to create an inviting, shady, and flexible open space. And the pavilion itself, which I'll get to in a minute, will have a green roof that will become an extension of the pollinator garden. So this rendering shows you the approach and the view towards the pavilion in the distance. You're approaching it from the south here. And now we move towards the design proposal for the Northeast Pavilion, which will be built into the hillside at the northern end of the site. The following are the plans for the 2,000-foot square foot structure. It will include an underground basement level that holds the composting equipment for the restrooms above. The facility has been streamlined, and the majority of the structure will actually be buried into the hillside. There's a berm at the north end of the site. The ground floor includes 8 all-gender composting restroom facilities. These are similar to the composting restrooms found at the Well House along the peninsula in the park. Composting restrooms, we've had really great success with them at the Well House building. We feel like they're really great for the environment. They enable us to recycle wastewater without tapping into the city's combined sewer and stormwater system, which is really important. This floor also includes storage and staff space for the landscape management and maintenance teams. They will be dedicated to the care of this area. It also includes storage for nature education teams, who will offer outdoor nature programming in the Vale. The next slide shows the upper level open air terrace, which is covered with what we call an intensive green roof. The depth of the roof is significant enough for planting pollinator plantings similar to the meadow. And this is a rendering of this pavilion. We are designing this facility to meet LEED standards. We are utilizing stone and wood that's evocative of the existing retaining walls and tree canopy. We're also proposing fretted windows, which will make the building bird friendly. This is another view from the lawn area. And the gray water garden is tucked behind the Central Park settees on the left. And here's a view from the path above the Vale. And this is the path that would connect one to Grand Army Plaza further north. And this is a view if one were to approach from the Loop Road from East Drive. So as you can see, the building has 2 visible levels. The main level has the restrooms, and the second level is supporting the green roof. It's an open air terrace. And here's the bird's eye of the pavilion in the landscape. So that concludes the Upper Vale reconstruction. And now we move on to the Lower Vale site plan, which is the other 4 to 5 acres of the site. The site is known as the historic children's pool area, which is a decorative water feature. It's a pretty straightforward design proposal because it's primarily a restoration project. So the children's pool, this decorative water feature, dates back to the time of the park's creation. In the 1868 annual report for the park, it is noted that the pool was situated in a natural depression and is approached by winding walks with rustic steps. And that it is adjoined by an open lawn for family picnicking, which is still there today, which is called Nellie's Lawn, right next to the Zucker Natural Exploration Area. In 1895, when the designers McKimby and White transformed the Upper Vale into the Rose Garden, the same designers were enlisted to enhance and restore this area as well. They added many formal elements to the site. And then another restoration was made in the 1930s during the WPA era. And again, more walls and formal elements were added then as well. So today the area is in very poor condition. The water system that feeds the pools no longer functions. There are leaks in a number of locations. The clay liner of the pool, it has a leak. The walls at the pool edge are collapsing, as are the cobble edges that retain all the peninsulas in the interior. The historic balustrade is missing. The piers are pretty much the only architectural elements that remain. And here you see the piers in the bottom left photo. The brick pathways that are surrounding the pool have settled in numerous locations, and the drainage system no longer functions properly. So here's a plan for the project, and I'll just go through the elements that we're proposing on restoring. The numerous peninsula shorelines, which are, the land masses on the interior of the pool, they will be reshaped to historic boundaries, and the architectural elements will be restored, including the recreation of the missing balustrade. Invasive plants that have overgrown the area will be replaced by native plantings that complement the surrounding woodland areas. Pathways will be brought up to code and made ADA accessible. A discrete bubbler will be installed to circulate the water and prevent stagnation. In terms of bird-friendly features, bird baths will be installed just below the water surface. Anchored pots with aquatic planting will be reintroduced, and we will increase the variety of plant species. And in certain sloped areas, the peninsulas will extend into mudflats in order to encourage biodiversity. So this is a rendering from the north end of the site. If you've been here, you might recognize this a bit, but you probably have not seen the balustrade because it's not there, it's missing. So that will be recreated. Here is a view from the south end of the site showing the planted peninsulas and also the aquatic planting. So the main design moves here are to remove the broken cobble walls to make these edges naturalistic in order to enhance biodiversity and promote habitat. And then on the exterior, it's to reconstruct and restore that hard edge, the granite coping, and restore the paving. Also, wherever there are land masses and peninsulas, we're proposing to install a low metal fence in order to prevent people from entering the site. Just a quick sketch showing you the bird baths. So we still have to figure out, but we're proposing on installing them just below the water, the surface of the water. And that concludes our designs for the lower Vale and also the upper Vale. Just a quick view of our estimated timeline. After our presentation tonight, we will be going to the Landmarks Preservation Commission for a hearing. And after that to the Public Design Commission for a hearing as well. So a few more approvals to be gained before moving forward with construction documents. And that is it for me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ragalina. So questions about this presentation, and I'll begin by surfacing the question from Leon Tolton on behalf of Councilmember Mealy. And this is a question about what would be done to Lower Vale to make it ADA compliant?
Thank you for your question. We are going to be removing the historic brick pavement that is there and cleaning it. Then we are going to be regrading to make the pathways and the surfaces smooth and a slope that meets code. And then we will be resetting the brick pavement with a joint that is filled in so that that also meets code.
Very much. Chairperson Brown, recognized.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that presentation. I did note that you had added that the pavilion was requested to have the littlest footprint that it could. And as such, we have an all-gender bathroom. So my first question is there another department, Parks Department asset that has a singular all-gender bathroom in one building? And if so, what are the design standards for that? I'm looking for an idea of what the partitions will be between stalls, including the clearance of doors. So is there a lot of clearance on top of the stalls, below the stalls, and at the bottom of the door? And then when you're done answering that question, I just have one additional comment.
If I may, I'd like to pass the baton to David Yum, our senior architect.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your question. So right now, I actually don't have an example for you, parts of another all-gender bathroom, but we certainly can research that and take a look. I just don't have one right now off the top of my head. But all of the stalls, because it's all gender, all of the stalls will be, not all, most of the stalls will be the wider stalls that are typically for ADA accessibility. And all of the doors will right now be standard stalls. We're not doing anything different than sort of a park standard for the stalls because it's all gender.
Chairperson Brown, I believe you said you also had a comment. We'll come back then to Chairperson Brown. Chairperson McClure, CB6.
Thanks. I really comment more than a question. I just wanted to commend the Alliance and Prospect Park on the work. I think it's a very thoughtful design, brings the area up to a 21st century standard, and appreciate the work and especially the amount of outreach that was done in coming up with this design. So thank you.
Chairperson Baptiste. Is someone speaking? I did overhear something and I wanted to. Is that you, Chairperson Brown? Well, once again, we'll come back to Chairperson Brown, whom I believe maybe having technical difficulties. Chairperson Baptiste, CB9, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I put my question in the chat, but very quickly, in terms of timetable, I understand that there's some more hearings that you'll be going to. So I think one of them was LPC, and I can't remember if there was another one. When is that scheduled for? Has that already been scheduled?
Yes, LPC is scheduled for the 28th of this month, and PDC pens their disposition, so that will get scheduled afterwards. So LPC, we present to LPC first and have a hearing, and following their approval, then we are scheduled for PDC, the Public Design Commission.
And PDC, so after LPC, if they approve, then it will go to PDC.
Correct.
So I guess the other question I have is, are all these approvals sequential? So in other words, do you need ours, then you need LPC, then you need PDC?
That's correct.
Okay.
Chairperson Brown, I'll come back to you to complete the comment that you'd wanted to make before I move on to Chairperson Pena.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Sorry about that. So what I was able to gather from the response from the landscape architect or the principal architect was that there is no standard at the moment for a parks asset with accommodations that are all gender. And I did hear that there is no particular method, and they're going to use the standard features for stalls at the moment. Am I correct with that?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So I have concerns with that. I would recommend that if we're having an all gender bathroom, all users would appreciate the most privacy possible. And so my suggestion would be to have partitions that go from floor to ceiling and doors that are close to the floor as possible. I say that with all due respect to your design sense, but I do think it's important for all people that are using that restroom. And then my other comment that I wanted to make was, this is the second Borough Board meeting in a row that we're looking at designs for projects that are mainly focused in the north of the park. I am very much looking forward to seeing the start or the, continue conversation regarding the lakeshore restoration in the south of the park and the reactivation of the Shirley Chisholm project that will happen at Parkside. The paths that lead on the south side of the park are in no way accessible and are in invisible condition. And I hope that will be included in the lakeside restoration. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Chairperson Pena, Community Board 7, you are recognized.
Thank you. And Chair Brown stole one of my questions, was about the all-gender restroom, and I'd just like to echo that sentiment about all-gender bathrooms. I was very excited to see an all-gender restroom, but just want to echo the sentiment about ensuring that there is we're making sure people are comfortable and ensuring privacy, while also making it super accessible for folks. But I did actually have a question about the pavilion. You noted that the windows were bird friendly, and I was actually super curious what that meant. And you used a word, and I didn't quite catch it. What makes them bird friendly? And forgive me if this is common, but I don't actually know what makes the windows bird friendly.
Thank you for your question. I think I had said that the glass was fretted. David, would you like to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Thank you for your question. It just means that the glass, we're going to apply sort of a white frosting so that the birds are not confused by a perfectly clear glass surface where they can't recognize the glass itself. So sometimes that'll be a problem if the glass is very clear and the angle that the birds are approaching the glass doesn't have enough reflection for them to know there's something in the way. So by taking away the reflection and adding sort of a white, a muted white color, we're hoping that it does typically eliminate that problem.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the Prospect Park Alliance representatives in connection with this application on restoring the Vale of Kashmir, reconstructing the Vale of Kashmir in Prospect Park? All right. Hearing, please, Vice Chair Sanoff, the Community Board 13.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering on the cost factor of this here. Nobody mentioned how much this is costing, how much the city is putting in, and how much the Prospect Alliance is putting in. Do you have those figures?
Member, do you have the current numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I can
breakdown?
answer. Just historically, so you know, the Alliance is a small but mighty nonprofit organization. We don't have the type of funding to be able to do much capital restoration. Our operating budget is really focused on landscape management and the care of the natural areas of the park. So we have an arrangement over our 35-year history where we help to advocate for funding from elected officials that gets placed into the Parks Department budget. And then the Parks Department has an arrangement with us where they hire us to do the design and construction supervision. This project was funded by the mayor's office and former Mayor de Blasio's last term or last year of his term. And the full cost for both the Upper Vale and the Lower Vale together is $40 million.
Thank you very much.
Any further or last comments, questions? All right. Well, thank you very, very much to Svetlana Regalina and the other representatives of Prospect Park Alliance, Deborah Kirshner, David Young, for your presentation. Now we will have a vote on whether the Borough Board will approve the application of Prospect Park Alliance to restore and reconstruct approximately 10 acres in the northeast corner of Prospect Park, also known as the Vale of Kashmir, and the other pieces noted in the public hearing notice item, part of the agenda and stated in this presentation. This is a similar matter as I stated in introducing it to last month's vote. It's similar in that it comes before the Borough Board under sections 85 subsection A and subsection B6 of the charter, in that it is a matter involving one or more than one community district. To that end, on this matter, once again, the chairpersons of Community Boards 6, 9, and 14, as well as the council members, will be permitted to vote on the matter because it affects their community districts consistent with what the charter mandates. So when I ask Ms. Church to call the roll, Ms. Church will call the roll as to Community Boards 6, 9, and 14, the council members, and then the borough president. Let's be clear on the voting procedures for this matter, similar to last month's application from the Prospect Park Alliance. Ms. Church, will you please call the roll as I have?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question with regards to order. Can you do that before the vote? All right, only because I think on the agenda, we had listed this as a public hearing.
Yes.
So my understanding would have been that we would have had public testimony as well that would have been taken. And typically there's some time after that we would do that before we would actually see the vote. I'm just want to understand, I just want to make sure that we're clear in terms of, is that something that is required, or is that a misstatement on the agenda? Or, I just want to make sure in terms of that we're fully compliant with all the applicable rules for this.
Certainly, Chairperson Baptiste. The question and answer session, and thank you for that, I'll just clarify. If there are any members of the public who wish to comment or ask questions, members of the public may do so as well. That would satisfy the public hearing requirement. So to that, and in case it was unclear, I will take one last opportunity to clarify that any member of the public who's in attendance at this public hearing, this virtual meeting, they also are permitted to testify. And I actually, I do see there's been a hand up. Councilmember Mealy, I believe you've had your hand up. I don't know if you wanted to comment on this matter.
Yes, I was just wondering, how did they decide to do that side of the park? Because I know it's a lot of other things in on Parkside that need so much work done. So I was just wondering, how did they decide to do it on that south side?
Thank you for your question. We do look at the park holistically, and we do have plans for restoring all areas of the park. There's future plans for Ocean and Parkside Avenue restoration and the sidewalks. The pergola at Parkside and Ocean entrance will be restored. We're looking at the restroom at that corner as well. We're installing the Shirley Chisholm Monument. We just started doing a survey and a tree inventory of the area around the lake, which will include a lot of restoration work, restoring the pavement, making it safe, replacing the lighting, attempting to restore habitat and bring people back towards the lake shore. But this area of the park in the northeast really hasn't seen restoration if you've been there in over 60 years. It's really inaccessible. It's a hazard, and I think we just heard from the community that it needed this kind of attention and this kind of funding. So the Alliance, I think, was petitioning for quite a while and then trying to gain these funds for this area. And so
That's my question. Y'all were petitioning for that area. No one else was petitioning for Parkside, Lincoln Place, because I know it's a picnic area right on Parkside and Lincoln Ocean Avenue that the community cannot use because it's so decrepit. Why was that not where people can enjoy that just as well? I believe more people would get a lot out of that picnic area just as well as watching the birds and relaxation also. So I was just wondering, why was that area chose? Y'all had the autonomy to decide which one. You said that you advocated for it.
well, the southeast corner of the park received a lot of funding and restoration efforts when LeFrac was, and the ice skating rink and the Concert Grove Pavilion were recently restored in the last 10 to 15 years. And as I mentioned earlier, we are already in the process of surveying the southern corner of the lake and all of those picnic areas and pathways in order to start restoration efforts in the south of the park.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Councilmember. Would anyone else, just a last call for the public? Over the public? Hearing none, once again, I will now call for the vote. Following procedures that I described, given the matter comes before the Borough Board under section 85 subsections A and subsections B6 of the charter. This will be a matter on which the chairpersons of community boards 6, 9, and 14 can vote along with the other council members here. And this is for the application from the Prospect Park Alliance stated in the notice contained with the agenda document sent around. Ms. Church, would you please call the roll as I have indicated? We cannot hear you, Ms. Church. You're muted.
On the motion to accept this presentation, Community Board 6.
Community Board 6 votes yes.
Community Board 9.
CB9 chair votes in favor.
Community Board 14.
Community Board 14 votes in favor with the caveat that we look a little deeper into the all-gender bathrooms and the concerns that I raised. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members. Council District 33. Council District 34. Am I out? Council District 35.
I vote in favor.
Council District 36. Council District 37.
Yes, in favor.
Do you mind just saying your names, please?
Sure, this is Mohammed on behalf of Councilmember Nurse, voting yes.
Thank you. Council District 38.
Edward Cern on behalf of Councilmember Aviles, yes.
Council District 39.
Hi, Musrat Lamia on behalf of Councilmember Shahana Hanif. We vote in favor.
Council District 40. Council District 41.
I'm in favor, Mealy in favor, with the caveat of Community Board 14 regarding the bathrooms. I still have questions in regards to that. I vote yes.
Thank you. Council District 42. Council District 43.
Michael Sheldon for Councilmember Justin Brannan, voting yes.
Thank you. Council District 44. Council District 45. Council District 46.
Saeed Joseph for Council District 46 in favor.
Council District 47.
Ayana Williams on behalf of Councilmember Kagan, voting in favor.
Thank you. Council District 48.
Troy Olson on behalf of Councilwoman Ina Vernikoff, District 48, in favor.
And the Borough President.
I'm chairing the meeting, will abstain following that convention.
I have 12 in favor. No abstentions. We have 16 council members and three voting community boards. So that should be 12 votes. So we have 9 in favor, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. Ms. Church, the vote was, you said, was it? Oh, 9 in favor, no yes, and 1 abstention? Is that the count?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. And let us now continue on with the agenda. Next item on the agenda are updates. I would briefly invite Erin Buchanan, the Deputy Director of Land Use here at the Office of Brooklyn Borough President, to present in part on updates from the Office of Brooklyn Borough President. And I'll proceed to note 3 quick updates from our office, and then we'll hear from everyone else.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Buchanan had to leave, so if you don't mind, I can do the update for her on her behalf.
Of course, please proceed, Ms. Church.
Okay. The Land Use Department is grateful to everyone on behalf of the Borough President who shared the existing conditions of the draft comprehensive plan. As you know, the public comment period closed on January 31st, so we're now updating all the comments received. From there, that data is being used to create the draft preliminary recommendations. To make sure that everyone is aware of how we move forward, the Land Use Department is seeking to have all community boards set some time on their agenda in April so that the office can present the recommendations to the board or Land Use Committee. If the board wants to hold a special meeting to have that presentation, we'd also appreciate that. So essentially the message is that we're hoping to be able to set meetings on everyone's board in April and May for our Land Use Committee to present on the comp plan. So just asking your district managers who haven't already done so to please accommodate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Church. Ms. Baptiste, will you have a question? We recognize you on that. Chairperson Baptiste.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear in terms of the process. So I understand, thank you for that update. So I understand that there's going to be outreach to the boards. It looks like we're scheduled, I think, March, April timeframe. What are the steps after that? So is this an item that comes back to so after that engagement with the boards, is there a vote? Does the Borough Board plan to vote on this? Will there, be some kind of review of the final document? I just wanted to get some sense of that as well.
Because I don't have the specifics on how the Land Use Department plans to proceed, any response I give might be speculation. So I can get back to you and the board on that.
No, absolutely understood. My only concern, I would say, is this, only because if we're going into that April timeframe, it gets very close to the end of the year. So I just want to understand in terms of, if there's any actions taken, making sure that we don't run into the summer months when the boards are in hiatus.
Understood.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Baptiste and Ms. Church. There are 4 other updates from Borough Hall. I will begin with the most important one. This is the response to the mayor's preliminary budget. Under the New York City Charter, there is a defined role from community boards and the borough boards in the process, the development of the budget. We are asking you to send us your responses that we could incorporate into the formal response from our office due March 10th. We understand that each board approaches budget differently, but do send us an email so we can assess which board will participate in this process. For the next fiscal year, we will approach this in a more streamlined manner, likely providing the boards with a template for submission. Questions on the budget update? I do note that the executive assistant to the borough president, the chief of staff, is on this borough board meeting in case there are questions. He can answer them. Questions on that update, given its importance and its time frame? Mr. Chief of Staff, I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
No, nothing on my end, but if folks do have questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll throw my email in the chat. Thanks.
Second update. An organization called Why Vote and Next Generation Politics developed a toolkit for community boards who are interested in working with youth. They are inviting those who are interested to attend the 2nd annual New York City Youth Agenda Policy Breakfast on Tuesday, February 21st from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the mezzanine level of the David Dinkins Municipal Building at 1 Center Street, and to invite any community board members whom you think would be highly engaged by this. The goal is to demonstrate a powerful model of how youth adult leaders can work collaboratively. In the chat right now, I'm going to send a link to the agenda for that meeting. Third update from Borough Hall. Upcoming community board member workshop on program evaluation and assessment is going to take place on February 16th. The workshop is being sponsored by the Civic Engagement Commission and will be led by Professor Mark Johnson of the New School. This will be part one of a two-part series. Part two is for members with specific interests in evaluation and assessment. Final update from Borough Hall is that the borough president will host an in-person meet and greet with the chairpersons of the community board on March 21st. Any other updates from borough board members?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Of course, Chairperson Scavo.
Yes.
Proceed, Chairperson.
You were mentioning having a meeting with either the land use committee or full board. Approximately how long will the presentation be? And could you just rephrase the time frame?
Ms. Church, I believe this is a question on the matter you provided an update on.
I don't know how long that presentation would be. I can guess they can do it in 20 minutes, but I don't want to speak on behalf of the department when I haven't actually seen the presentation.
And we have to schedule it either with land use or full board in the month of March or April?
April or May.
April or May. Okay, thank you so much, Carolyn.
I'll be sending out an update tomorrow or Thursday. I'll follow up on these questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Scavo. Any other updates from Borough Board members? Hearing no other updates, we will now continue on to the fifth agenda item. This is a presentation from Visions, Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired. I believe I saw in the chat earlier, is Nancy Miller, the Executive Director, CEO Visions on?
Yes, I am.
Proceed.
Thank you so much. I have been the Executive Director, CEO of Visions for 36 years, and I am very excited to say that we have been serving every neighborhood in Brooklyn for legally blind and severely visually impaired people of all ages. We are a nonprofit that was founded in 1926, and our services are provided in 16 different languages. Our training is offered to people who lose vision, and our certified professional instructors go into the home and help individuals learn non-visual ways of staying independent, safe. Our services prevent falls, prevent burns, prevent accidents. Last year in 2022, we served 683 Brooklyn residents of all ages, and there are 58,000 blind and visually impaired Brooklyn residents. So we have quite a lot of work to do. Again, our services are free of charge. They are funded primarily through the New York State Commission for the Blind. And we also have contracts with the New York City Department for the Aging and discretionary support from the City Council for outreach and services for both youth and older adults. In addition to the in-home training, which is provided, as I said, in every neighborhood of Brooklyn, we also provide workforce development, job placement, work readiness training that's offered both in person and virtually. And we are number one in job placements of legally blind New Yorkers for the last 7 years. This is really just to introduce you to who we are and our services. We have no advertising budget. All of our money goes to providing direct services and providing support to both individuals who are blind, to their unpaid caregivers, that's family members, neighbors, friends. And we operate an older adult center that is located in Manhattan, that is open to all Brooklyn residents who are blind or visually impaired, and any escort or supporter who brings them or travels with them to the center. Again, we serve people from birth to death. I'm very proud of the work that our staff does. We are very reflective, both our board of directors, our staff, and our participants, of the diversity of New York City. About 1/3 of the people we serve identify as white, about 1/3 as Black, about 1/3 as Latinx, about 7% as Asian, and that's reflected in all aspects of visions. So we hope I put the information about who we are, our website, our toll-free number. If you come across in your work, in your volunteer work, of somebody who is blind or losing their vision, please refer them to Visions for our free services. Medicaid and Medicare do not fund vision rehabilitation. If you break a hip, it's funded. But if your eyes stop working, the only funding that's available for rehabilitation services is offered through funding from the New York State Commission for the Blind. So we feel we're a best kept secret. We want you to know that we're available. I have 100 staff who are working across New York City, trying to reach as many people with vision loss as possible. And we look forward to being partners and collaborators with you in your community work, since you know the community so well. We work very closely with the Lions clubs of Brooklyn. They have been supporters of ours for years. I am a Lion myself. And again, they are helping us get the word out about the services that we provide. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller, for your presentation. And now recognizing questions, beginning with Vice Chair Sanoff of Community Board 13.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Miller. I just want to mention, this is more of a comment. It's a very, very worthy organization. And I'm pretty sure you know Joe Koresh.
Yes, he is the
Okay.
chair of our Brooklyn Advisory Board.
Oh, yeah, he's a wonderful person, a very caring person. He has vision problems too. And I went to a function, I think it was last year, and it was very, very worthwhile. Very worthwhile organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanoff. Ms. Morgan.
Hi, good evening. I just want to say thank you for being here on this evening. I'm glad that you are here and I am here, because someone very near and dear to me actually shared that they were in need of these services. And I knew that this type of service existed, but I was about to go on a hunt for the organization that could provide this information. And so you made that so much easier, because I can provide this information to this individual so that they can take advantage of the services. So thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
One more hand up. Is that by, I thought I saw a hand up, but I don't see one now. Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Any other questions for Ms. Miller of Visions? Hearing no further questions, comments, Ms. Miller, thank you very much for your presentation. We will be, of course, doing our part to circulate the information about your organization. As you said, you don't have an advertisement budget. We will do our role in advancing it. And thank you so very much for that vital service on behalf of the clinics.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Now moving on to the agenda item. This is agenda item number 6. Also connected to the or attached to the email circulated to you all with the agenda and the now adopted minutes of the January 2023 meeting was a document described as the 1977 version of the Borough Board bylaws. This is related to a conversation that happened in connection with the October 2022 Borough Board meeting, where this Borough Board adopted policies related to hybrid meetings. And in that conversation, at the point, there was a statement that the Borough Board has no bylaws. After some late night explorations here at Borough Hall through files, discovered a document that appears to be a copy, largely complete, though some of the pages of the PDFs circulated are somewhat askew or cut off. It largely appears to be an accurate version of the 1977 bylaws. There are some long-standing venerable members of the Borough Board today, but I do not believe anyone goes back there. So the first discussion point is to see whether anyone has reason to question the authenticity of the bylaws that have been circulated. I should perhaps give some background. I found this document in a folder of bylaws of community boards that was given to me by the Human Resources Department here at Borough Hall. I had an occasion to review it, I want to say a few Friday evenings ago, and I found the document there. I then gave it to Ms. Church, whom I discussed it with Ms. Church and circulated to you. We don't have any basis for confirming these as the bylaws, but we also have no basis for questioning their authenticity. So we wanted to, as a preliminary matter, bring it to your attention, to the Borough Board's attention, to see if anyone perhaps has, with the advance notice that we'll be talking about this, some occasion to try to get some more information on its authenticity. The last bit of context I will provide is Section 85 of the Charter, which we have relied upon tonight, in subsection B, subsection 3, requires Borough Boards to adopt bylaws and to meet at least once a month, but no formal action can be taken except at a meeting open to the public. So there's been an assumption that we had these, but we had been operating under the assumption that we did not. And so here's this document. So I wanted to sort of weigh in on that as a first order question before dealing with some other pieces. So the first question is, anyone have any information that would lead us to question the authenticity of the document that I have circulated? Or we circulated here at Borough Hall.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
First of all, I wasn't here by roll call, so if I can just say Barry Spitzer, Community Board 12. If there's some people here that may remember, my recollection is that the now State Senator Andrew Gennardis, when he had your title during the Adams Borough Hall administration, didn't mention something about doing a Borough Board bylaws review. I'm not sure what happened with that. I'm just putting it out there, so maybe Senator Gennardis knows something more about it.
Thank you for that. We will check in with Senator Janaris to confirm or to get some more information on the authenticity. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Spitzer. Anyone else have any information that would be relevant to helping us determine the authenticity? Okay. The other piece of this is on the assumption that, well, whether these bylaws are authentic or not, but on the assumption that they are, they're woefully outdated slash the Borough Board would probably need to adopt bylaws if we don't have that. So I want to raise interest of members in perhaps forming a bylaws committee to take the exercise of trying to draw together what 21st century bylaws might look like. I wanted to sort of raise that to see any interest in discussing, and if so, we could have a vote to create such a committee and constitute it. If not now or at a later time, or what folks think about that. And I'll start with you, Chairperson Baptiste. Cannot hear you.
I always forget to do that. I want to thank the chair and the team for resurrecting this document, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's definitely something that we need to review and establish. I think that one of the things that we'll probably need is that legal review, because I think, especially given the fact that we had the charter revision that happened back in the early 90s, that it's, this predates, this is like the Board of Estimate era and a whole number of other things. So there's probably several elements that have been changed with the revision of the charter. So we might want to have that legal review first to see what is actually obsolete. So that way we can kind of clean the document a little bit first to see where we're left. And we can make those adjustments as necessary to make sure that they really reflect and they serve the Borough Board. So that way we can make sure we're able to accomplish our business.
Chairperson Baptiste, do you have a proposal as to who would conduct this legal review? Or I put it to you.
There's a certain person I'm looking at, but I see Mr. Chair is fully qualified to at least initiate that kind of a review. If he definitely has the bandwidth and the ability to do so, but I think it goes a long way in terms of eliminating some of the items that we don't need to deal with because they're obsolete.
Certainly then, Mr. Baptiste has put a proposal that Borough Hall conduct a legal review of the bylaws document and point out pieces that are obsolete, that have been superseded by the 89 charter revision and those that have taken place since then. I do see in the chat that there is a counter proposal from Chairperson Pena, so we'll just do it this way. We'll sort of try to see. Mr. Baptiste has made a motion that we do a review here at Borough Hall. Anyone seconds that motion, then we'll have a vote on it. Since there's a counter proposal.
Joanne Brown, Community Board 14 seconds that motion.
Second by Ms. Brown. All right. On this one, let's just do we'll go with yeas and nays to sort of make it perhaps faster, but to also have a record. I'm all in favor of Chairperson Baptiste's motion to have Borough Hall initiate a review of the bylaws, legal review to point out which provisions are outdated. All in favor, please just put your hand up or indicate on the chat. Yes. All, those of you put your hands up, would you please put your hands down so we can count our no's? All opposed to Borough Hall doing this? What's that? Anyone abstain? Hearing no abstentions, I counted 14 in favor with a no and an abstention. Is that, Mr. Cernas, are you abstaining?
No, I had a question, but sorry, I'll wait till the vote is over.
Okay, so with that, Mr. Baptiste's motions carries. We'll conduct a review, report back, and then we'll deal with how to proceed from there. You had a question, Mr. Cerna?
Yeah, the review probably should have asked before we voted, but is the review, when you say obsolete, would it then be like a recommendation to change, like amend the bylaws? And if so, just one would put out there, if we do that review, you can also, because Community Board 7 did this under Chair Pinion, I thought it was a great exercise to review the language of the bylaws to make it gender neutral. I think like a lot of folks have been taking that on, and I think it's something that we're going to look at the Borough Board's bylaws that we do that as well.
So, Mr. Cerna, to that end, I understand Mr. Baptiste's motion for us to report back on what provisions have been superseded. You also have pointed out that, yes, in the charter, as part of one of its later revisions, there is a provision that requires gender neutrality wherever possible, because that too is a provision of the charter that has come into existence since 1977. Our review also will cover pronouns and other ways of not abiding by gender neutral language.
Thank you.
Okay. This brings us to agenda item next to last, number 7, and that is unfinished or new business. There being no unfinished business from the January 2023 Borough meeting, we are now left to take up whether there is new business. Any new business from members of the Brooklyn Borough Board? Chairperson Pena. So I just want to check out that representative for Councilmember Hanif's office. Is that a hand up from the vote, or is that a hand up to speak on new business? Muse Lamia? Okay. We'll go then with Chairperson Pena. CB7, you are recognized.
Thank you. I had a question, and I brought this up a couple of months ago. And I know in the city council redistricted last year, and I was kind of curious. I'm not sure what the process is, or if the community districts do kind of their own like redistricting processes for community boards, but I wanted to raise that as because it was something that board members have asked about, if that was something that would be happening in our districts. But I wanted to raise it as a question, comment, something that is a concern that people have been asking. It is not something that we necessarily want to happen, but just something that has been asked several times, and just wanted to elevate it. If there is a process, we'd like to know about it, like to comment or figure out what would happen.
So we will get you information on that. We'll circulate that, Chairperson Pena, under the other Borough Board meetings. I do not have the answer to that, and I don't think we have anyone on tonight who could answer that question. Just give one little pause just in case any of my colleagues, Ms. Church, corrects me. Yes, that might be a seamless transition then, Chairperson Baptiste. Chairperson Camacho, you are recognized, with Chairperson Baptiste's teasing that you could answer this question, but no.
No, I'm not answering this question. Sounds good. I can't answer this question, but I wanted
to see what's going to happen with this outdoor dining. I know City Council is voting on it. Are the community boards going to have one a say in it? 2, are the borough boards going to write in regard to that? 3, are we going to amend things to make sure that 1, it's whatever's no good, get rid of it? Also, let the communities that are impacted to make a statement. I know that they're supposed to be doing something under the table. I don't know what it is that they're doing, but we need to, the community boards need to address, because we've been getting a lot of complaints around some of these outdoor dining. So we want to know, 1, are we going to have any input, or the community boards are going to have any input? What is it that they're putting together that we don't know, that they're making a secret? And how is it that we're going to have enough time to vote on whatever it is? Because I don't think that City Council should be voting on something that's going to affect the community, especially if those councils are representing the community. They work for us, we don't work for them. So they got to come and answer these questions. I wrote a letter to some of my council person concerned on some of these outdoor dining that they're catering to the restaurant alliances, and these community boards that are here needs to echo, whoever wants it for it, whoever's not for it, there needs to be a EIN, make sure environmental study, something in regards to what's going on. I don't know why they're putting it under the table. We know COVID was bad. People had their jobs and needed it. Now COVID, the mayor said it's over. Everybody's got to go back. We need our street back. We need a quality of life back. We need the rodents to go away, because now we got more rodents than ever because of those outdoor dinings. They're only catering to the Restaurant Alliance. I own my home for 40 years. Why can't I have the front of my home as residential parking, but yet they give it to the bikes, to the kiosks, to the car renting stuff, to the Restaurant Alliance, and nothing to the taxpayers and to the people like us that are poor, that made these communities, Bushwick, their home, and been here when nobody want to be here? Are we taking a stand on that? Are we writing them to let them know community boards need a stake in these outdoor dinings? Because it's easy for them to complain. Who's going to be in charge? What's going to happen? How much is going to cost? Who's going to be responsible? Are the community boards going to have an input? Is it going to be seasonal? Is it going to be? We don't get nothing. They're making deals like Monty Hall's elected officials. So I want to know what these community boards and borough boards are going to do for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Camacho. We can circulate a status update regarding the proposed legislation on outdoor dining for next meeting, since I do not have any information on that. And so I can't advise on what the proposed bill would have a position. And we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting for a full borough board discussion to deal with that legislative possibility. Chairperson Baptiste, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I made the mistake of trying to follow Camacho, which is an impossible task, but very quickly, it was a matter that was brought up. It's been on the agenda, as part of the comments. City of Yes. It's definitely one of those things that it's bubbling. I know that, there's been movement on it, but it doesn't seem to be consistent messaging, or actually I'm not hearing too much in terms of where we are and what the processes are going to be going forward. And I wanted to request, if it's possible, if we could request that Department of City Planning give some sort of a primer or presentation in terms of we can understand what exactly is being done, if things have been done already, and what next steps are for any of the proposed legislation, procedural or administrative changes that have been proposed.
Thank you, Chairperson Baptiste. We've noted that. We will obtain information on the status of the initiatives to facilitate small businesses, the City of Yes initiatives, and we will provide that to the Borough Board and see when we can get a representative of the Department of City Planning on to present that update. Do not have any information on that, and I do not believe any of my colleagues do either.
Thank you.
Chair Lewis,
Yes, Ms. Church.
I can give an update on that.
Oh, very well then. Even better. Ms. Church, who always actually knows things. I'm just here for show. Please go ahead.
Sometimes. City Planning will present on May 2nd to the Borough Board.
Thank you.
City of Yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Church. Mr. Spitzer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This probably should have gone under updates, but just getting back from the walkout from Brookdale Hospital where Officer Adit Fayaz was shot and sadly has died now. And I just wanted to mention Officer Adit Fayaz, who served my community here in the 66th precinct. Just want to ask everybody to keep Officer Fayaz in their prayers and the entire family. That's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Spitzer. We recognize Adib Fayaz. Chairperson Brown, Community Board 14.
Thank you very much, Chair Lewis. Just wanted to comment on this presentation that we'll be receiving from City Planning in May. This feels a little reminiscent of the summer of 2021 when we were scrambling as we approached hiatus to make decisions, to inform our board, to have meetings about the proposed text amendments. I'd like a little bit more clarification on what they plan on presenting, and we haven't gotten any notice from City Planning that we're going to have a dedicated presentation to Community Board 14. I'm not sure if any other community boards have received notice. We did express to Director Karodnik that it was kind of a debacle in 2021 and we don't want to see a repeat of that. So thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Chairperson Brown. Your concerns are noted and raise them as part of the planning of the presentation and as a general matter on behalf of the community boards. Other new business. Ms. Morgan, is that your hand up from the vote still, or do you have a hand up to give some?
It was from before. I'll put it down. Thank you.
Other new business. Hearing no other new business. We are close to. So I just actually want to surface one thing following up on Chairperson Brown's comments. Ms. Church has put in the chat that if there are specific questions for DCP or the Borough Board would like focus on particular areas of the City of Yes plan, please email those to Ms. Church here at Borough Board. That connection. With no other new business, want to simply note that we next convene on Wednesday, March 1st, not Tuesday. Wednesday, March 1st, as the schedule notes. This is to accommodate Purim. With that clarification and knowing that I will see perhaps some of you ahead of them in various places, otherwise be very well. I will see you again on Wednesday, March 1st. It should be a virtual meeting. There is some situation with the ongoing local state of emergency that we'll have to sort of sort. But of course, this Borough Board has a hybrid procedure, so that is to be figured out. But largely should be in person. Nonetheless, be very well. We'll clarify that if that's otherwise. And this Borough Board meeting for February 2023 is adjourned. Everyone have a good evening. Take care.
Take care.
Have a good evening.
I don't get a chance to vote against adjournment?
I'm always faster than you, Chairperson Baptiste. I see you. I see that glint in your eyes. So.
Foiled again. Take care, everyone.